G'day, this is Case 88 Podcast, Season 1, Episode 1, on the occurrences of between May 7th and the May 20th to inside a certain medical hospital that I've just been released from.
Okay, Vaughn. In the public health system, what got you there?
It was a panic attack, anxiety attack, and a whole bunch of issues all built up into one, where I normally would have reacted physically, and I ended up verbally outlaying my thoughts and feelings of the time, and they weren't very positive. And my neighbours had heard it and called the cops on me, and cops turned up, and so did the medics, which was a surprise to me. I had no idea that just calling out your angers and issues deserves a medic. I didn't think that was right. I thought that was a bit weird. So something else had been said, obviously.
Okay. What did you think about the force used to get you there?
I thought it was extremely excessive. When they turned up, I was sedate. I was shocked that the certain officer had walked straight into my door. I was very shocked about that, mainly because I keep my doors locked all the time, and it was just by accident that the door was unlocked at that time, because I wouldn't have let them in. I would have demanded a reasoning and a piece of warrant for them to be allowed in, even though nowadays I now understand that if there was a duress call, they have right to enter the home. I find that being admitted involuntary was a very wrong thing. I was not in a mental state that was well to deal with such a situation. It was a very bad choice on their part to admit me into a institution like that, because it had only made my life a lot worse.
If no would have been another answer to the problem at hand, what would have been another answer to the problem?
Well, I'm the kind of guy that bottles things up. I don't let it escape very often, because it used to get me in a lot of trouble. So that day that I let it escape me verbally, I was legitimately scared and pissed off at the same time. It was a fight and flight response, and luckily I didn't go fight. I think I could have just chilled out and had another beer and a cone and maybe forgotten about my issues, but that's just a recurring incident.
Has this happened before, and what happened then?
This has happened many times before. It was only reported because there was a person that the neighbours knew that was living in the house, was in the house at the same time and heard the words I had said. That was the main reason for the cops being called, because I've often verbally expressed myself on the front deck, as in, like, we live in a rural area, so it's a little bit less likely to be heard than if you're in suburbia.
Okay, what drugs do you use, and if you do at all?
I use medical marijuana. I have used heavily back in my teen years ecstasy, and I had used LSD for a fair bit of my middle of 20s. That was extremely beneficial for me, because it made me give me an outlook onto the world that I never thought I could ever see possible. Like a love for every single human being you meet. There's a good and bad in everyone, but you've got to look for the good that you find in everyone you see, and deal with the bad and the way you should, which is ignore it if they're a good enough friend, or cut them off if they're hurting yourself. It's about what that person does to you and your family. That is what determines whether I stick around you or not.
So do these drugs benefit your life or hinder it?
See, that's another thing. Back when I was younger, a lot of these things used to hinder me because I never knew or we were told about the dosage regulations needed and the actual correct way to use these chemicals. These chemicals aren't anything to play around with because, yes, you can stuff up real bad, such as the dude in Southport in the mid-2000s who chopped his nuts off. Sorry, there'll be a censor warning on this. That chopped his nuts off on methamphetamine. Mid-2000s Southport, look it up. It was a bad batch of gear that just made him go nuts. He'd been up for like a week or so. This stuff had changed. Ever since the mid-2000s, it began as GAC, cat piss, ox blood, goey, the good old stuff, you know, the good old stink. It smelt through the bag, through three bags. It was yellow, it was wet, it was crystally wet. And this stuff was the real deal good stuff. That was beneficial. Then I was handed a pipe and said, this is a smokable version of the same thing. So I thought it was legit. The same thing, just you smoked it. And then I was told later on, this is ice that you're smoking. And it's like, well, what's the difference then? Because all that I'm feeling is the same feeling as what I had before. Just I smoked it. That was literally the only difference. So the difference is now is that whenever I've ever dabbled in that world, ever in the recent times, it was always about dosage. Learning how to dose low and slow. Never fast and high. Because fast and high will get you in trouble and will get you hurt physically, mentally, and financially. It's about learning how to do it and just not focus on the pot or whatever you're doing and just use it as a tool. Use it as a tool. That's all it's there for. It's there to get things to make you work yourself through hard situations or even get things that you normally wouldn't be able to get done. When I was on the Eckies, it was all about money and fun. Money and fun. You know, I buy a 50-pack a weekend, give 10 to a girl, and 10 to me to eat, you know, and 30 to sell. You know, that's all it was about. But now this was a medication. It became a medication. Heroin was just fun as well, but it was more about disassociation. Disassociation was the biggest thing I liked about it, was that I could just zonk out and live a life that I didn't have to worry about. And that was the same with ketamine. Ketamine's a big thing for me. It's a chemical that has been able to remove myself from situations where I would have reacted very funny or different and been personally hurt. But this has been able to actually allow myself, remove myself from situations mentally and escape. And it's given me that salvation needed. Unfortunately, it's not very common anymore nowadays, but like really good ketamine I last got was with a good mate of mine down at Surfers, the Croatians, and it was funny as, because they didn't know, they just had this powder, I don't know where they got it from. It was funny as. And it's like, you want K, special K, you know, whatever that accent is, it's funny as. It's like, yeah, I got money. And so you got bud, I got bud. And so yeah, I got bud. And he's like, I'll trade you bud for K. I'll trade you bud for K. And he's like, I want to try it first. And I put my finger in, I licked it, and I looked at my mate, and I gave him a wink, and I said to him later, this is the real deal. This stuff is the real deal. You do not get this regularly around here. We need to go back and get their phone number or rob them. I didn't mean rob them. I never said that.
Okay. What are your thoughts about psychologists, doctors and nurses or pharmacists at the Ward 2B?
I found the nurses were very nice. The student nurses were even nicer because they were just trying to get to know the system and the way it went. The doctor was very judgmental. He had no idea really what was going on. He had no idea about my medications I was on, the reason why I was there, the reason. He thought that I was under psychosis. He thought and believed that I was on methamphetamine psychosis, where, as you can hear right now, right today, 2021, May 21st, I am not in psychosis. And that is a fact. And that's what really is annoying, is that the minute you bring up the word amphetamine, you are labelled for good. You're labelled, and it screws us all up, because a lot of us are ADD people, and we do not get affected the same way as some people.
Okay, you were given medications for a bottle of whiskey a day habit, an old school heroin habit, an amphetamine habit, with the mental state and the build of a Mallee bull. You loved your general risky edge of your seat of your life, and you survived and did not do. Did you do detox immediately or dry with no meds?
It was an immediate dry out. I was admitted on Thursday, May 7th, and 6th, sorry. So that's 15 days I've been in, and they never gave me a thing. I was literally in a lounge, deck chair, for about 16 to 18 hours, waiting for a bed, with no medication, withdrawing from everything possible, and they never gave a fuck. Like, all you could get was water and decaf coffee. And in that whole period of time there, all I did was shake. I couldn't sleep, couldn't lay down, I couldn't sit down, my fibromyalgia had played up real bad that day, because that was another leading factor to me getting there, was my fibromyalgia, which is like chronic fatigue syndrome, but uncurable, and is an issue because it also causes pain through your joints, your back, your knees, your legs. It makes you really, really uncomfortable all the time, where they never medicated me for that. That was a real big issue too.
What were the people like that you met inside?
90% of them were fucking pretty good people. There were fucking 10% were absolute dead set meant to be there. They were lunatics. And that's not putting them down. I'm just saying that they were meant to be there. There were some real loose units there. People that would sit up in one chair for 48 hours nearly straight and not move and just talk to themselves. And people that would be just holding teddy bears with black eyes, talking to the teddy bear. You know, there were some really scary situations. Like, I was the most stable-minded person in the whole unit, I do believe.
Did you meet many schemers in there?
I met nearly every schemer you could find under the sun. It was fun. It was fucking a real fun little game we had going, eh? Like, a lot of these dudes, they've done a lot of jail time as well, so they know the game. But, like, one of my mates in there, who's still there now, who actually, as a gift, gave the rest of my tobacco back over to him, because I knew that he'd going to be doing a lot longer time in there, and he hadn't got leave, so I thought I'd help him out and give him a care package. I gave him a care package of tobacco and papers, and man, some of the stories we come up with, like, it's just like clicking. Like, everything you say, he's like, yep, this is like just like what we were like, you know. We both reciprocate perfectly. Everyone, like, there were some people that were very touchy. Like, you know not to go near them because they don't talk at all. They're rocking in chairs. They're staring at the floor. Or there's users. There's the users, and they're the people that will come up to you every fucking 5 minutes for a cigarette, just after you had a cigarette. And they'll say, and I used to charge $5 an ox, $5 an ox. If you wanted a full cigarette, and I would roll it for you because I'm measuring this out, not letting you do it. It's $5. If you want the butts from my ox, go for it. Go for your life. I don't care. But if you ask me for a cigarette, you're having the last centimetre of tobacco in my cigarette left, and that's your cigarette for that period of time. If you ask for another cigarette after that, it's making me look hot. It's making it really bad. It makes me look like I'm the plug and that I'm the one that is going to get done. And they don't realise that, because the more you ask that person gets looked at more and more. And they never understood it. They're dumb fucks, some of them. They would go out their way to niggle and hassle you all day long for a cigarette. And it's like, don't you ever pay attention to where I go if you're that inclined to go and scheme a cigarette from someone? Watch where I go. There are places where you go to have a cigarette. Watch when I go there and join me. That's how you're going to get one. Don't ask. The more you ask, the less you get.
What were the majority of reasons for people being locked up in there?
Methamphetamine.
What do you think was mainly the methamphetamine usage that they've been locked up inside the ward for?
Mainly booting, high doses. It also had included methamphetamine usage of couples where one would be using, one wouldn't be, and the other one would be going off their nut, and then the other one would be reciprocating this fight, and then they would get locked up for going off with the guy on the gear. Or they've both been locked up and separated. I don't know. I didn't really look into their cases, but like it's always to do with people not handling their dosage, and that's what I'm all about: is education, letting people know about it's not necessarily a bad, evil thing every time you do it, and for every single person. It's whether or not you're mentally inclined, and I would never recommend anyone doing it. I'm just saying, if you're already doing it and you're fucking up, get off it. If you're not, dose it right. Or if you are on it and you are fucking up, look up how much you really should be doing and convert it from Adderall, which is an ADD drug, or look at how much L-methamphetamine is in Adderall and then moderate in your weightage per pill.
Did they feed you well inside?
The food in there was excellent. It was so good, I put on, I think, nearly 5.5 kilos.
Very good.
They had roast chicken through lunch, roast beef through lunch. I never ate breakfast. I'm not a brekkie guy. But dinner was always meatballs or fish and potato. And then we had jelly and custard for supper and biscuits.
What was the best thing to do to bide your time?
Crosswords and listening to Aussie rap and talking to mum and dad.
Did you work out?
I didn't personally work out. I did a lot of sunbaking as I had a lot of Irish skin on me at the time. But luckily I haven't peeled at all. I'm just gone brown again. So I'm now looking a little bit more of my close brethren.
Were there many long-termers in there?
There were some dudes there that were doing a long period of time. Like they'd been in the high security unit, they'd done jumps over the fences and been on the run for like days and finally got caught. And then they ended up doing 9 more days in high security, ended up getting shipped up to 2B. Now they're in 2B and they actually can get a smoke and all that. Not really. No one knows. No one knows that doesn't happen there. No one smokes in there. Nothing at all like that happens.
Was there a high cycle rate of people coming in and out?
It was insane. I had 3 people go through the bed next to me. I had 2 people on the opposite side of me. I had 1 guy on the corner opposite of me of a 4-man room cell. And I was the only one in there for 14 days in the whole unit.
Were there any side courses to do while you were in there for your indefinite stay?
There was, but there was only Monday to Friday, and it was only open for half an hour to an hour a day.
And what were the courses?
They were relaxation, things like yoga and breathing techniques, and they had an exercise bike that, you know, like when you got 20 not inmates, but like patients, you got fuck all time to get on these things, you know. You only got a certain amount of minutes to get in there. It's pointless. And plus it also opens up to the where we don't smoke area.
What made your stay longer?
On Friday, the 14th, I got caught by Noel. No, I did not him. I'm not saying his name. That wasn't Noel.
Yep.
And drinking Tallies and Captain Morgan. Unfortunately, it was almost like he knew that I'd been seen walking down there the day before doing it. He knew where to walk because I was in a spot at the back of a Woolies where they all have their smoko break. where all the pallets are.
Right.
And this was sus as, because this exit on this road, on this walkway, it goes nowhere. There is nothing out there. This person that caught me, who was a nurse, had to have been told someone with a mental ward bracelet has bought alcohol.
Right. Yep. Yep.
That's the only way, because that's the only way that this person would have known to go walk down that alleyway.
Yep.
Because of a person I also know, never going to name, told me is the perfect spot to drink.
Right. Were the staff good to you?
The nurses were really, really good. Really good, especially Julie. She was a great person. Kudos to Julie. And the rest were fairly easygoing. It was more about not smoking at all in front of the cameras.
Yep.
And making sure that, you don't fight and smash shit up, with like TV remotes and phones and universal phones in there. They get smashed up quite a bit.
Were you ever scared?
Yes, I was petrified one night. I was so scared I was crying. I had another anxiety episode, panic attack episode of being stuck in there indefinitely. That I think it would have been Friday night, it would have been Friday night, because I just got done for drinking outside, and that really affected me, because I knew they said Monday, Tuesday I'd be released, and Saturday, Sunday I would be allowed out to go with my parents to my home and do whatever. And this was all revoked. This Saturday and Sunday leave was revoked, and voluntariness was revoked as well. I was now involuntary once again.
Right. So did you make any good mates in there?
I made a shit ton of good mates in there. Some of them don't have phones, so I don't have their numbers, but some of them were, I ended up got onto Facey with them or got their phone number and that. They've already been in touch with me since I'm been released. So I'm really, really happy about to know that I've expanded my basis of people I can keep in contact with.
What style of person did you get along best with?
Jailbirds, unfortunately. They knew the system and knew how to work it right.
Were you ever given a nickname?
Bond.
James.
Yeah, it was just Bondo. It was because when I said my name, because everyone always used to get it wrong. It was Sean or they even Vaughn. What? So I'd bend over forward and say Vaughn. And this old lady said that sounded like Bond, James Bond, and that's where it came from, Bond. This lady called me Bond.
Were there many fights?
No one-on-ones. Unfortunately, I would have been really like filming it and getting a few hits on Instagram off that, but you weren't actually allowed to take photos inside. It was illegal to take photos inside because of the layout and things like that. To be given to people on the outside, you weren't allowed to do that.
Right. So you were in for weeks. What was the criteria for people that were in for attempted suicide?
Funnily enough, I knew a dude who tried to do it, and he got released before me. How fucking heavy is that?
That's strange.
That's really strange. And not only that, the day before that my father turned up, and he actually told me he tried to kill himself the day after when Dad turned up. He'd actually flooded the shower block to the point where it flooded the whole unit.
Wow.
And he got released before me.
Strange. Very good. Well, that was Case 88, Season 1, Episode 1. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Vaughan.